Welcome to Knights in Plastic Armor, a podcast about all things LEGO Castle. Grab a shield from your favorite faction and join us as we discuss new set releases, dive into the history of LEGO Castle, and highlight awesome fan builders from around the world. Now here are your hosts, Kenton Lanier and Nate Clark. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Knights in Plastic Armor. We are a podcast all about LEGO Castle. I'm Kenton, and I'm joined by my co-host, Nate. How's it going today, Nate?
Pretty good. Great to be here. Ready to talk about some castle history.
Yeah. So for anybody that's new, we want to just give you a little kind of overview of who we are, what we're doing, what we're about, all that sort of thing. So again, I'm Kenton. I'm originally from Kansas City. I live close to Nashville, Tennessee now. I'm just an adult fan of LEGO, an AFOL as we call it. Been a big fan of Castle since I was a kid in the 90s. Castle, Western growing up, Lord of the Rings, lots of stuff like that. And love talking about LEGO and talking about Castle. So started this up a few months ago. This is episode 5 now. So Nate and I have been doing this for a few months now. And tell us a little bit about yourself too, Nate.
It's been a great journey getting here to episode 5. Having fun just chatting with you about a shared interest.
Yeah.
I'm Nate. You can find me on Instagram as Brick Designer Nate. I used to work for LEGO. I worked there for 4 years over in Denmark. I'm now in southern Florida, but it's great to get to continue being in the hobby and share my interest with others.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Instagram as well. I'm at kentonian.bricks. And then you can follow our show at Knights in Plastic Armor. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on all of those platforms. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So click like, subscribe wherever you are so you can keep up with the latest episodes. We do have a 3-month rotation that we go through with our different episodes. So our first one, every 3 months, we just talk about new sets, maybe some reviews of recent sets we've built, anything coming up lately. So that was our last episode. There were several sets announced for July and August, so we went through all of that last time around. Then our second topic, which we're doing again today, is LEGO Castle history. Everybody loves talking about the good old days, the nostalgia of LEGO Castle from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. So we'll be diving into that every 3 episodes as well, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that today. And then our third topic, which that'll be again next month for September, is we interview a fan builder. That was really fun our first time around. We interviewed Chris Tromans, the mini modular guy from the UK. It was great chatting with him, just hearing about all his different designs that he's got on Rebrickable, some stuff he's done for Bricklink Designer Program. We've got
the ones, the big ones.
Exactly, yep. We've got a great guest lined up for next time as well, so we're excited to chat with them in our next episode. So we do a monthly episode. We rotate through those 3 different topics. So if you're joining us for the first time, glad you're here. Go back and listen to the other episodes too. You know, they're not necessarily time-stamped too much, other than maybe the new sets and reviews. Those are going to be linked to, what's coming out right now or what's been lately. But yeah, we have a great time talking about Castle. So Nate, you been building any Castle stuff lately, or I see you got some stuff there behind you?
Yeah, so I've been working a little bit on a Bricklink Designer Program submission.
Nice.
We'll see how that shapes out. I've got a bit of time, but not a lot of time. But in the meantime, I've got the Siege Encampment and the Medieval Seaside Market from our Bricklink Designer Program series. These are the first ones that I've ever purchased.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting system with the pre-ordering. I had to get on, almost time it. These were the first 2 to go. They're extremely popular, pretty pricey, but this definitely feels like a hefty set for both of them were $230, both with over 2,500 pieces. So, your price to piece, if that's something you care about, perceived value is definitely there as well. So I'm definitely excited. I'm really looking forward to building this one. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure. I might not have the space for the Siege Encampment. I don't want to be that guy who's scalping sets, but I don't know. I'm just looking out of curiosity, have these already gone up in value because they retire so quickly? And it looks like they already gone up like $80. That's wild how
Yeah.
quickly these just came out. So I don't know.
Right, because you get a limited edition set. They only produce up to 30,000, at least up through that series. That was Series 4, I think those are?
Series 4.
Yeah, and so Series 5 just got the funding recently a few weeks ago, and so they upped a couple of the quantities on those. And so I think actually the 5 sets that were in Series 5, none of them officially sold out. There were a couple of them that were really, really close, but they upped the quantity to 50,000 at least on one of those. So
I wonder if Lego's looking at these numbers and seeing, the $80 margin there. And they're like, well, that's $80 we could have made.
Yeah.
So it'll be
possibly
interesting to see how much they make if they keep that program. Because I know there's only for like a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I hope, whoever the fan designer, I hope they got more than just the 30,000 units value that was their award prize. But anyway, I digress. Super excited for these. One of the boxes is a bit crushed, but thankfully it's the stuff that's inside. So
exactly,
and the front's not too bad. So
yeah, if you're intending to build it, then it's nice to have a box that's in great shape. Some sets I save the boxes from. Most I don't. Just I don't have room to store a whole bunch of boxes too. So yeah, now if you're keeping it to resell, then probably you want one that's in a little better shape. But hey, if you're gonna build it, who cares? Box is a little bit. Pieces should be great.
Plus, this one's got 18 minifigures. That's so many.
Yeah.
The limit is 13 now.
Oh, well, they got that one in just in time then.
No. Good army builder. What about you?
Yeah, so I've been doing some building lately. I've been participating in a challenge by the Brothers Brick. They announced it a few weeks ago, and I thought it kind of looked interesting. They're calling it Dungeon Crossing. So it's kind of a crossover between Dungeons and Dragons and then Animal Crossing, because LEGO's recently produced several sets based on the Animal Crossing game. I've never played D&D or Animal Crossing, so I'm just an outsider coming to all that. But even
I'm surprised you haven't. Like, even I've gotten my hands on a D&D round here or there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, with all the stuff LEGO's been coming out lately with D&D, I'm definitely tempted if I could possibly find the time. But who knows? So yeah, it's basically
time and friends.
Well, yes.
That's tricky.
Yep. So it's a role-playing adventure that they're doing. So the first thing was to just create your own character, and all the characters within this had to be some kind of animal. So it's basically sort of medieval castle knights idea, but animals. So everybody's using animal heads, whether that's Animal Crossing or Disney or lots of different stuff like that. So I picked a chipmunk. I used the head from Chip and Dale from Disney, from one of the collectible minifigure series a few years ago. He's been my protagonist and hero along the way, and then each week they've given out a different challenge for what your build is supposed to be about, and plenty of room to be creative with that and come up with whatever story you want to do. The first one was more just kind of a mild adventure. It was, you could pick one of 4 types of items that they were supposed to go and find. It was like a relic or an egg or something like that. So it wasn't supposed to be too dangerous, just like a walk in the park, basically, they called it. So that one was nothing too crazy. Then you're supposed to turn up the danger a little bit in the second round, and they could either team up with somebody or upgrade a weapon or multiple options you had there. And then the third one, they kind of gave it a twist of your character could decide to embrace the darkness, go to the dark side, and get all this great power to overturn the system, basically. Or stay true and stick with the heart, that kind of thing. So it was interesting prompts each time, but you could go lots of different directions with it. So I had a lot of fun with it. The third and final round of it just ended yesterday, so still waiting on hearing what the results of that are. I don't expect to win anything, but it's just been a fun time. So here's my chipmunk here if anybody wants to see it on YouTube. He's got a hammer with an acorn on it. He's got his staff there, and yeah, it was a good time. So used some parts from a couple of Dungeons and Dragons minifigures to make up the body there, and I even did, for a villain this last time around, I used Gonzo's head from the Muppets.
I love that.
Yeah, it was fun. Good to kind of get back and start building some mocks again. I haven't done a whole lot of that the last few years between having kids and moving multiple times and all that kind of thing, but it's been pretty fun. I've enjoyed it.
Super creative challenge. I love that It's not just build this, and they actually give you like a chance to evolve your story as you go along.
Yeah.
And for the people who may not know about the challenge, is there a prize associated with the winner, or?
Yeah, so they've actually done a weekly prize. So each week they've announced a winner, and it's a small Animal Crossing set. And then they're going to announce a winner of the overall thing, and it's a little bit bigger set. And then I think they've got some smaller sets to just like randomly pick people that didn't win something else. So yeah, some decent little prizes too. So
I
I
love
just
that.
did it. It was fun motivation and felt like something I could bite off without trying to do some massive build or something like that. And more minifigure focused, which I tend to gravitate towards anyway.
Best of luck.
Yeah. Well, we do have another quick question here before we get into our main discussion, but this is kind of lead us into that. Our main discussion today, we're going to be talking about the first 5 classic factions from the 80s and a little bit into the 90s as well. So I know, Nate, you and I have chatted about this a little bit before, so we both know each other's, but let's go ahead and reveal here what your and my favorite factions are from those original 5. Now, those first 5 are the Lion Knights, the Black Falcons, the Forestmen, Black Knights, and Wolfpack. So let's see what we got here in 3, 2, 1. All right. So you got Lion Knights, and I'm going with Forestmen. So tell us, what do you like about the Lion Knights, Nate?
Lion Knights, it's kind of funny when I look at these classic factions. The Lion Knights are the only faction I ever owned sets of.
Mm,
When I was over in Denmark, I kept finding these great lots that had these super old sets in them because they've got Lego just from all ages over there. And I picked up this great collection that had the Siege Cart 6012, the Vikings Voyage, Prisoner Convoy 6055, and like King's Castle
oh, nice.
6080. And so really cool to get. It might have been nice to have, a little bit of variation, then they could, fight each other. But it was so cool to like I've got an entire army of these knights, and not just the Lion Knights, but the Crusaders as well. So both torsos.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so neat to go back in time and almost look at like a page in the catalog. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And just like all the various price points, and like King's Castle is so huge. It actually would like open up, fold out. It's very empty on the inside, but for like what I wanted, which was a cool big castle, and it had like 12 knights, 4 horses.
Wow.
Like 12, that's such a big number,
Yeah.
especially when talking about knights. Like that's almost unheard of these days. So there's just something about it. Loved King's Castle. Like it had those great printed wall elements. The 1x5 really helped
Mm-hmm.
break up that light gray. Just fun little, iconic start to the Lion Knights that we know and love even today. Because now they're in sets
Right.
now. So Lion Knights for me
Nice.
all the way.
Yeah, when I was thinking through it, I was kind of debating maybe Lion Knights or possibly Forestmen, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, one of my first sets was the 6024 Bandit Ambush, which was technically the Dark Forest in the 90s. Not your traditional early Forestmen, but still had a Forestman shield in it, and so definitely fit with that. But I've just always gravitated toward those types of builds. I love the trees and the water and the rocks and all that kind of thing. I mean, honestly, this dungeon crossing thing I just did kind of goes along with that. Like, I think every week I built some different version of a tree and lots of rock work and some river stuff. And so I've just gravitated toward those kind of nature elements alongside the knights and the lore that go along with it. Yeah, I really like the Forestmen. I don't have any of the classic sets from the 80s. I wish I did. Definitely have a handful of the newer ones, though. So, yeah, definitely love me some Forestmen. We also put a poll up online on our social media for people to vote for your favorite faction. So that's been up for a little bit. We got some votes on our Facebook and Instagram. I also posted it in a Facebook group. I'm in a good handful of Lego Castle Facebook groups. One of them called Lego Castle Builders. Got over 1,000 votes on that one. So that was great. There was some great interaction with that. People voting for their favorite of these 5 factions. Which one would you have guessed might have taken the top spot if you hadn't seen it ahead of time, Nate?
Just looking at it, facts and numbers wise, I was definitely thinking Lion Knights. If I had to guess, that was going to be the top one.
Yeah.
Looking at number of sets, it's almost double all these other like Falcon Knights, Black Knights,
Right.
I had like 24 or something large number. And so the results may vary. Which one did you think was going
I was
to
guessing probably
is
Black
going to?
Falcons. Yeah, I've seen a lot of support for Black Falcons the last several years, and people are pretty vocal about it. And that was definitely the top vote getting faction there. That one got over 300 votes. It was basically a third of that 1,000 votes was for Black Falcons. So it was a pretty resounding victory for the Black Falcons there in the vote. The second one kind of surprised me at 19 or 20% was actually the Black Knights. I've never had any of the Black Knights, not as familiar with those. They're a good handful of sets, though, and we'll talk about some of those in a little bit. But I was kind of surprised that that even beat out Lion Knights by just a little bit, just like 20 votes or so beat out Lion Knights. But yeah, Lion Knights came in 3, then Forestmen was the fourth one, about 16%, and then Wolfpack at 13. I was a little surprised that Wolfpack was that low, given the demand for the Wolfpack Beastmaster this year, at least.
Yeah, everybody seems so excited about the Wolfpack. I would have
Yeah.
thought just the modern resurgence of it would have bumped that up to at least third or fourth.
Yeah. But yeah, out of those 5, 4 of them have come back in some fashion the last few years with the resurgence of Lego Castle. Black Knights being the one exception that hasn't. So, but we should see that next year in the Gift with Purchase remake of the Sea Serpent set. Excited to have that one coming back next year. Maybe we'll get even more than that. We'll see. So let's get into a little more about these different factions. So again, we're limiting to these first 5 official factions. There were the early Knights with the Yellow Castle and some other sets. And, some of them have some kind of faction name now that we give to them, but they weren't really fully developed and didn't have their own specific sets and lore and all that kind of thing. Lego does have a history section on their website, and they do have one little page about Castle, which was kind of interesting to look up a little bit. The Lego Castle sets were originally under this Legoland theme, starting in 1978, when they had the Yellow Castle. So Legoland as a theme encompassed castle and town and space, and I assume it's probably based on Legoland Billund, which opened in 1968, so they'd already had that going for a while before they brought these themes in. I did find a really cool video that was from 1968. It's on YouTube. We'll put a link in our show notes to that so you can find it, about Legoland Billund when it was opening. And there is one shot in there of a huge castle in the Miniland, and believe it or not, it was actually yellow. So it's like, oh, okay. There's a good reason for why the first castle set was yellow, because they had done it in their Legoland.
All connected.
Yeah, it was pretty neat seeing that. And I just did a little perusing around, and they actually had made a postcard with a picture of that castle too. And I just happened to do a little searching, found it on like Bricklink, and then I went to eBay, and there was one on eBay for just a couple of bucks in great shape. So I was like, I'll pick that up. That'll be cool. And shout out to Brickset also. I was just discovering that they have this huge catalog, huge library of Lego catalogs, some old magazines, all kinds of stuff on there. I've used Brickset for years for just tracking my collection, looking at different sets. Didn't even realize, like right on the home page, there's this library tab. And there's all kinds of resources in there, a lot of vintage catalogs and things. So that was really cool to just kind of peruse that and get a little more information. So we'll be referencing some of that a little bit today too.
I mean, that was a great shout and find on your part. I had no idea either. So it's fun to get to go back and kind of walk down memory lane with the catalogs I received as a kid.
Right. Yeah, I haven't checked into any of those yet to find some of the ones I had in like the 90s and the early 2000s, but it'll be fun to see what they've got as far as those. So let's get into Lion Knights a little more here. We already talked about it just a little bit. It seems like Lion Knights are kind of your typical group of knights. If you think knights, you're probably going to think something like the Lion Knights. Interestingly, there wasn't actually an official king for quite a while in the Lion Knights. According to Lego's website, the first minifigure named as a king with a crown didn't happen until 1995. That was actually the Royal Knights later. Although in the UK catalogs back in the 80s, they did call one character from the Lion Knights Sir Richard, which is like, okay, probably going for Richard the Lionheart here. Just not quite spelling it out explicitly, but I think that's what they were getting at there. So we got several sets right there off the bat in 1984 with the Lion Knights. Got a lot of smaller ones, Yeah, we got a horse cart, a catapult, blacksmith shop, siege tower, jousting knights, and then we've got a couple of castles as well. So the King's Castle being the 6080 that you were talking about, that being the first full castle for the Lion Knights.
It's a great castle. I loved it. But I think one of the ones that I was definitely like, it's so iconic, but not really a castle, is the Guarded Inn. Not from
Yeah,
that original 1984 release, but
right. That was
1980,
1986.
1986. There's something about the colors that are just so, they pop so well. You get the female innkeep, three knights, horse, like all around. This little sign that's on the outside is so rare to find undamaged.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much nostalgia around this set. I'm surprised we haven't seen it revived in some like gift with purchase form, or
Yeah, I feel
you
like
know,
that would be a great one to do a remake of at some point.
maybe a castle set that's not at least $200. I'd be down
Right.
for that.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, the color scheme on that, you've got the red and the black on the inn, but then it's attached to some of the light gray castle wall kind of look too. So yeah, you get some great color contrast. And yeah, most of these castles are going to be some kind of gray, right? That's typically what we see with Lego castles, some kind of light gray, dark gray. But throwing in a little splash of color there does really stand out in the Guarded Inn there.
What's so cool about, especially about these Siege Tower, Guarded Inn, and King's Castle, they've all got walls that connect. Also with
Mm-hmm.
Blacksmith Shop,
Right.
all these walls connect, so you could just keep building this gigantic castle.
Yeah.
I just love that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you don't see anymore, at least with castle themes. We haven't seen a castle theme in a while, but it's just something that's so cool about like collect them all, build your castle, have it be just massive thing. So
Mm-hmm. And
I
yeah,
love
and
that.
customize your own setup basically. That was one thing I noticed in perusing some of those old catalogs was even the way they introduced just the Legoland general theme was stating that castle, town, and space were all the same system, the same scale. And so it was like you could even mix your town and your castle and your space all together if you wanted to. Much less, yeah, like you say, put several of these different castle sets together and connect the walls to make a really big castle. So yeah, it's really neat how you could just easily integrate some of those different sets together, make a bigger layout. Yeah, I did notice there was one thing in the 1984 US catalog, just their introduction to that. I want to read a little bit from that, or if you've got it, you could read it there.
Travel back in time with Legoland castle sets. Discover what it's like to live long ago in medieval times. Mighty castles, armored knights on horseback, and banners flying high create the perfect setting. So, let the fun begin.
Yeah, just a great way to launch castle as more of a theme in Lego. You know, there were a handful of sets before, but yeah, great way to really get it off the ground there. But not only Lion Knights came out in 1984, we also had the Black Falcons, which, interestingly, if you peruse some of those old catalogs, Brickset has some US catalogs. They got some UK catalogs, other European catalogs, which are in other languages. So I'm not looking at those too much. But just even comparing the UK and the US catalogs through the first several years, there were definitely some differences, particularly in some of the set names and even the names of the factions. So in the US catalog, this was called Black Falcons, just right off the bat in 1984. But in the UK catalog, they actually called this the Black Knights first, which we know the Black Knights is something different. But they initially had called them Black Knights in the UK catalog. So it's kind of interesting. And it seemed like the Black Falcons were supposed to be possibly some kind of rivals to the Lion Knights, because you got some jousts and things like that where they're facing off against each other. Brickset's also got some copies of Bricks and Pieces magazine, which I don't think was produced by Lego, but they even went so far as to call the Black Falcons villainous. So definitely trying to set them up as an antagonist to the Lion Knights, I think.
You see that ring true. Seems like they're always fighting someone. They're fighting Black Knights in the Sea Serpent. They're fighting more Black Knights in the Knight's Stronghold. They're fighting Lion Knights. They're starting fights with everybody. So
yeah, and it's neat to hear and see what everybody's own version of the lore is, basically. You know, you have how Lego set it up to start with, which was pretty basic. But again, leaving it really open to your imagination. Some people just create their own little styles and stories and things like that, but I've seen some people like going all out, just writing these histories and all this description and backstory of the different factions, which I think is super cool. You know, people have created their own maps of the Lego castle world and things like that. So it's really neat to see the creativity coming out. So some of those early sets of Black Falcons, again, we got Jousting Knights, we had Lion Knights and Black Falcons in that one, the Catapult 6030, and then the first castle being 6073, just called the Knights Castle. That one is a Black Falcon's castle. That one's, I think, a little smaller. Yeah, definitely a little smaller than the 6080 castle, but still got a working drawbridge. That's kind of a staple of all of these classic castles. There's a drawbridge with strings on it, so you can pull it up, and they all open up in the back, so you can expand it. You know, you can just keep your basic square shape or customize your shape a little differently, or just string it out as a big long front wall. So lots of options there for display. On that 6073, interesting, there's a big red arch right in the front. Kind of stands out on that one, rather than just keeping with the light gray everywhere.
Yeah, and also an interesting thing about that one is the green flags. Like,
yeah,
it seems to kind of clash with the blue and black. So kind of an
right,
interesting decision.
Mm-hmm. And on the shields, you got the Black Falcon emblem, but then you've got the border around the outside, which, if you're familiar with the classic ones, you'll know these with either blue or yellow around the edge of the shields. But yeah, like you say, on that first castle, you've got green and white flags up on the castle, and some of the knights are carrying some. So yeah, kind of got all sorts of colors going on in this one.
Well, the iconic Black Falcon castle I think of is the next one on our list, the Black Falcon's Fortress. Very iconic with its yellow wood graced part there. The yellow accents just ring really nicely with the blue of the Falcon Knights.
Yeah, so that's at 6074. And yeah, you've got a yellow flag in the front of that one, a blue one on that tower in the back that you're talking about with the actual Falcon logo on it. So yeah, that one is probably the more well-known Black Falcon castle. That one's maybe a little bit bigger. Definitely a bigger drawbridge there. You can get more of an army out pretty quick with that one.
Absolutely. And it seems like, at least looking at the other castles, this is one of the first instances where you see the kind of that rounded spire by using those kind of angled octagonal pieces.
Yeah.
It really helps give it a different profile looking at it from the side. So
yeah, because that tower in the back has that actual roof on it rather than just, the top of a castle wall you could walk across.
Yeah. So I really appreciate the difference in appearance on this one. That's why it sticks out to me, at least, as the Black Falcon's castle.
Yeah.
At least in the retro sense. Now I've got a new vision of that.
True. Yes, Black Falcons have definitely been resurfaced in a grand new way the last few years, and Lion Knights too. I mean, the Lion Knights castle, most everybody's familiar with that. One of the biggest Lego castles, I guess Bricklink Designer Program probably has overtaken that. But yeah, Black Falcons have had several appearances in the last few years, so it's been great to see both of these factions coming back in force. Everybody's had an opportunity to pick up some of these, whether it's through those sets or bricks and pieces online. There were definitely a handful of smaller sets with Black Falcons and Lion Knights. There were some minifigure packs, some of these early battle packs. There's one 6102 that's got 3 each of Lion Knights and the Black Falcons. That would have been a great way to just bolster your army, pick up some extra knights, because it's pretty much just the 6 knights with shields and weapons. There's no build going on in that at all. So be a great way to pick up a handful of extra minifigures. And of course, can't beat the price now. That one, the original retail price was listed at less than $6 for 6 minifigures.
Castle fans were eating good and they didn't even know it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, now you pay that much just for one. Well, let's move on to Forestmen here. Yeah, let's go on to Forestmen. So the first year that Forestmen appeared was 1987. So you had 1984 for Black Falcons and Lion Knights, so they just kind of stuck around as your main castle factions for a while. But then 87, you add the Forestmen, very much going for a Robin Hood type of feel. And I'd always seen that as like, okay, it's pretty obvious. We're trying to be like Robin Hood, but they didn't actually call it that. But then in perusing these old castles, they specifically called it Robin Hood and Robin in certain things in the UK catalog. So it's like, okay, we're not even beating around the bush here. We're just going to stay it right out. Like, this is supposed to be Robin Hood.
All his merry men.
Yep.
These sets are just so great.
Yes.
I love the dark wood of the trees that they have in all of them. So iconic.
Yeah, so you get a lot of the black trees, lots of rock work. So the first set for Forestmen was 6066, the camouflaged outpost. And so, yeah, this one has a big black tree. You've got a rock structure that can open up and they can hide underneath it. So it's basically, yeah, just a hideout. It's camouflaged hideout. They got some treasure in there. Good handful of minifigures. So, yeah, just starting it right off, Forestmen. It's obviously in the forest.
Yes, we got Forestman Hideout. Comes out the following year.
Right.
That one's gotten a revamp now as a gift with purchase, but stays very true to the original. The two, is it elk or just deer on the shields?
I haven't looked into that specifically. I always assumed it was deer.
I'll just go with deer.
But
with the two deer shields hanging on the front with the blue roof, just like a fun little set. And opens up for extra play.
Yeah, and that one in the UK catalog in 1988, that one was called Robin Hood's Tree Hideaway. And the camouflaged outpost was called Robin Hood's Secret Cave. So, yeah, it was supposed to be Robin Hood.
I love that.
And then you started seeing Forestmen in the basically battle packs too. So 6103 in 1988. Now you got 2 Forestmen, 2 Black Falcons, a Lion Knight, and then 1 just medieval peasant in there too. So you're starting to mix them in with the others a little bit. A couple other pretty well-known Forestmen sets. You got 6077, the River Fortress, and then 6071, Forestman's Crossing. I can definitely see some similarities in these between some of these Bricklink Designer Program sets that we've had, like the Castle in the Forest from 2021, which was actually before Series 1 of Bricklink Designer Program. They had like an initial invitational kind of a thing. So it was part of that. And then the Forest Stronghold that just got shipped out a few months ago from Series 3 definitely reminds me of the Forestman's Crossing. You know, you got some water, you get the bridge. So seen a lot of inspiration from some of these classic sets for newer builds, but they're so iconic with the trees and the rivers and the rock structures too.
A time. And can I just take a second to like pause and like the photography on all these sets?
Yeah.
All this is like physically laid out. You can see like on the Forestman Crossing, they've got a river that ties in perfectly with the print on the base plate. The backgrounds, they're all just actual paper. The lighting of it all, and especially looking at the catalogs, it's amazing to just look back and just kind of be in awe. Oh, this is back in a time where they had to make their own magic. It's not all digitally recreated.
Right. You didn't have Photoshop and digital rendering and all that sort of thing. It was, you physically set it up, you take it with a film camera and
of a lost art form. So, I don't know. I really appreciate when Lego throws back to it. I believe the Forestman Hideout gift with purchase was also laid out similarly.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially, the yellow band around the boxes. Like,
right. And even the Lion Knight's Castle.
Yes. Any little bit we can get to just kind of the throwback era of this wonderful time.
Yeah, and some of the images in the catalogs too. You've got these bigger layouts with several sets in one picture. And, I remember seeing a lot of that as a kid too, where you get a sense of how all this works together in this world of Lego Castle. Because you'll have your big castle, but you might have your siege tower over here and your little village sets over here. And, oh, here comes the other army marching toward the castle to invade and stuff like that. So, yeah, they did a great job of just instilling that creativity, but being very artistic about it in the photography.
Ready to talk about some Black Knights?
Let's talk about some Black Knights a little bit. Yeah.
Number 2 in the popularity.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised that one took second place there. So hopefully we get this revived here more than just the gift with purchase next year.
Here's hoping. I'd love to have that torso and shield available on bricks and pieces.
Well, and noticing the classic ones, I don't know that the logo, like from the shield, So the shield from Black Knights, you've got the blue border with the red background, and then the yellow and blue dragon. It's basically the same as the Dragon Masters were later, just different colors. And I've looked at them really close a couple times. I'm like, is it the same thing? I'm pretty sure it's the same thing, just different colors. Colors are kind of swapped around. But I don't know that the Black Knights ever had that printed on a torso.
True. I see a lot. It's mainly just the chainmaw and
printed armor.
Chest armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. So maybe this could be just a really nice generic knight torso that we'll see in the future. That could be,
or maybe we'll get a
used for
torso
multiple.
with the logo on it too, which I think would be kind of cool. Just we've gotten that with, well, I guess not Forestmen. We haven't seen any of that, so they may not go that route with it when they bring it back. But if they do, I wouldn't mind.
It'll be interesting to see what creative liberties they take. I guess it's not really a liberty; they own the property.
Right.
So I'll be anxious to see
one of the early
what the
sets
graphic
from
designers choose.
Yeah, one of the early sets from Black Knights was in 1988 and then kind of revamped in 89. This is set 1584 or 6060. It's just called the Knights Challenge. This one really stuck out to me as a fantastic value at the time. This one was listed at $22 for the initial retail, but it's got 8 minifigures in it. It's basically a joust. You've got this little joust viewing area. You've got the thing in the middle between the horses. You've got 2 horses with full barding on them, one for the Black Knights and one for the Lion Knights. Yeah, it just looks like a great little set. I think maybe I'm discovering that I really have a thing for some jousts here, because talked a few episodes back about one set I really wish I had was from the Kingdoms line that was a bigger joust. This one just looks great, though. I think this would
Love
have been
the barding. Barding is so good. There's a queen. You get a queen before a king.
Yeah.
The Lion Knights.
I'm not sure if they explicitly called it that, but it certainly looks like it because, yeah, you've got kind of levels of the seating area, and the queen is a little higher than everybody else in the photo. So I think it's supposed to be hinting at a queen there. Now, she's supposed to be the
fair maiden.
Yeah, she's supposed to be the queen of the Lion Knights or of the Black Knights. I don't know. So you got one knight of each up there. So. Or, if you're going Robin Hood kind of lore, maybe it's supposed to be like Maid Marian kind of a thing. So, yeah. But, yeah, that one kind of stood out to me as just a great value and a way to pick up a lot of really cool stuff with the horses and the barding, several knights in there, and a great little scene with the joust, too. But, of course, we've got more sets than just that. For the Black Knights, there is the Sea Serpent that probably more people are familiar with now because that just won a vote for the LEGO Ideas Twist of Nostalgia challenge a few months ago, and that'll be produced as a gift with purchase set sometime in 2026. So we're super excited to see that one coming back. There's another little boat there, though, that's slightly different than the Sea Serpent. We've got a Black Knights boat. This one's a little later. This is from 1993. It kind of looks like just, I don't know, a poor man's version of the other one a little bit. You've got some kind of dragon head on the front, which looks rather cartoonish, and then a couple minifigures in the boat, and then some oars on the back to help steer it a little bit.
Point out that this one is smaller, but yet 6018 Battle Dragon is even smaller than that. So they've got a full range of, little dragon boats for the Black Knights.
And then we've got a couple of castles here, too.
Castles are great.
Yeah, 6085, the Black Monarch's castle, and then 6086, the Black Knight's castle. I know you were wanting to talk about this one some, Nate.
I mean, this Black Knight's castle. So, Black Knights, I guess I didn't associate it with them, but the way they shake up the castles of being black walls with the light gray accents is such a great, unique way to differentiate these guys from your standard gray castle. We kind of saw that a little bit with like the Black Falcons, trying to tie in extra colors like that red, that yellow, but having these just be straight black with those gray accents, really unique, and makes them pop in a really unique way that's different from the others. I really like, especially on Black Knight's castle, it's got those hints of those red roofs. It's got those yellow wall pieces with the wood deco on it. And you get so many figures with this too.
Yeah. And this one's got a raised base plate.
Oh man, I love raised base plates. Bring them back, Lego, please.
I know, yeah. I mean, sure, you could customize, build your own kind of thing to sort of make one, but it's not the same. Having an actual raised base plate. And I'm pretty sure that's probably the first one, actually. Or, maybe there was another one right around the same time. So that was 1992 with the Black Knight's Castle. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
seeing anything else right around then.
Yeah, so the Lion Knights had a raised base plate back in 1990 with Kings
Okay.
Mountain Fortress.
Oh, right. Yeah, we
So
missed
it's
that one.
got to beat it out just like a little bit.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, so you get a couple of them with those raised base plates in there. Yeah, those are really cool because it gives you extra height you can work with, but then you typically got some kind of cavity in the middle, so you're going to end up with a dungeon or something like that. You can drop the enemy into, like this Black Knight's Castle. There's the Wolfpack minifigure in that primary photo peeking through a window in the castle wall, but presumably that might be in the jail or the dungeon or maybe above it, getting ready to get dropped into it if they get sneaking around too much.
Raised base plates are such a great thing as well because what Lego piece has as much storytelling play starter than a raised base plate? Like you've seen
Mm,
some of the ones we'll talk later on. Like they've got rivers going through like a mountain canyon.
yeah.
This one, like you said, you've got a pit in the middle for a dungeon. Just one piece creates an entire story for a child to just play out. And then you build a castle on top of it. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got the printed rocks and grass and stuff on the side, so you add a little bit of color and texture, which mock builders now can do all sorts of rock work with slopes and different pieces and that kind of thing. But now, to create something like that, you're going to be taking at least a couple hundred pieces just to build this base. Whereas with the raised base plate, you get one piece and then you can build everything on top of it. So efficient too.
Words can only go so far.
Yeah. And then we do have one more that we're going to skim through today. I know we're kind of moving through all these pretty fast this time. We'll definitely slow down and take our time more on some individual factions in later episodes, but we wanted to give an overview of these first 5 for this episode. So we've got the Wolfpack. They started in 1992. I was noticing in some of these old catalogs that 1991 was the first year in the catalogs where they actually listed castle as its own theme and dropped the Legoland kind of over the castle, town, and space themes. So Wolfpack would have come right after that in 92. 92 was also the first year, at least in Castle, where there were some different minifigure faces. Up until then, you just had your classic Lego smile, 2 eyes and a smile. That was it. But some of the Black Knights and the Wolfpack started having a little bit of variation on that, whether that's just adding some mustaches or eye patches or some stubble or some different things like that. So starting to get a little variation in the minifigures in 92 as well. On Lego's History of Lego Castle page, they call the Wolfpack basically an opponent of the Forestmen. Interesting. And called them specifically robbers and bad guys. So they're supposed to be similar to the Forestmen in that, it's not your traditional knights with a big castle. They're just kind of hiding out in different places and that kind of thing. But these are maybe more on the evil side, or at least robbing and just kind of a less organized kind of rabble, basically, with some smaller hideouts.
More roguish in their
Yeah.
plundering. And their structures also. The black on the Wolfpack Tower. You've got the black walls, which kind of help build kind of a foreboding vibe
Mm-hmm.
to it as well. Very similar color scheme to the Black Knights, but
Yeah.
maybe they've taken over an abandoned castle or something of that nature. Abandoned, maybe because of the ghost that's hiding around.
That's true.
Lots
Yeah.
of ghosts. Ghosts and Wolfpack seem to have a pretty
Mm.
close tie to each other.
Yeah, I mean, one of the Wolfpack sets is called the Ghostly Hideout. So that's a small one. I know you did some kind of recreation of that one recently, I think, where it's, just this little portion of a tree and a rock with this ghost hiding underneath and one Wolfpack minifigure. But that's one of just a handful of Wolfpack sets. There really weren't very many, unlike the Lion Knights that's got a whole bunch of sets back in the 80s. Wolfpack only had, I think, 4 sets officially themed to Wolfpack. So you had that one, the Ghostly Hideout, Wolfpack Tower, that was kind of their base. Wolfpack Renegades, that one's the blue cart. And then you got some Medieval Knights. So again, that one's kind of just a pack. And then the Black Knight's Castle had one Wolfpack minifigure in it. So They showed up a little bit in some other sets, but as far as specifically themed Wolfpack sets, not very many.
Definitely kind of makes sense why they're kind of the lowest. Fewer touch points to the faction.
Right, that's true. But with the demand for the Wolfpack Beastmaster earlier this year, I was kind of surprised it wasn't higher than that. And then we've had Wolfpack come back in the medieval town square too. So had a couple more opportunities to get them in there. Hopefully we'll see a little more of them so they can stay current, stay with the current resurgence of Castle. But who knows?
I appreciate that LEGO remembers all these factions, and for fans like us, bringing them back, refreshing them, so they're not just lost to history. It is cool to get new factions, but tying back to the original is always great.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot of these. I have just a handful of some more classic Castle sets, mostly from the 90s, so none of these that we've talked about. I don't have any of these. I have the one Dark Forest one. I've got some Royal Knights from the 90s. So yes, I could go shell out some big bucks and get some vintage ones. Who knows? Maybe someday I will. But I love getting these remade versions of the classic factions and feeling like, okay, now I can actually take part in this now because I wasn't around in the early 80s. So I definitely didn't have a chance to pick up any of these at the time. So it's been really cool to have them coming back. And the shields, especially now, are pretty much identical to the classic ones. So that's been great to have the shields exactly the same, maybe slight updates, and then torsos that are a little bit more of your modern LEGO printing, but they still look great.
They do.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for our kind of whiz through these first 5 factions. Again, I know we plowed through these really quick, but we wanted to just kind of give an overview of these original factions here. Obviously, there are way more LEGO factions than just these 5. Lots from the 90s. There are even plenty of new ones coming out this year that we talked about last time around. So yeah, there's a lot of it out there, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to do maybe more individual episodes on some of the bigger factions. We'll cover some of the other ones that we haven't yet, but this was kind of our first dive into that. So it's been really fun getting into some of those old catalogs, looking at some of these old sets again, which I've seen plenty of them, but never had them myself. So I've really loved diving into this. If you haven't already followed our show, please do that. Like and subscribe, whether that's Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Leave a review, leave us a comment. You can send us an email too. It's just knightsinplasticarmor@gmail.com. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram as well. And we look forward to joining you again in September, which is going to be our second fan builder interview. We're super excited about that. So we'll be looking forward to sharing that with you again soon. So until next time. Thanks for listening to Knights in Plastic Armor. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Knights in Plastic Armor.